Agenda today. 15 years ago, Nigeria lost a patriot and a servant leader. According to former President Goodluck Jonathan, President Yar'Adua's life was defined by service and selflessness. His account of stewardship, whether as a teacher, governor, or president, was guided by hard work, patriotism, accountability, commitment to justice, and adherence to the rule of law. As president, Yar'Adua carried with him the burden of reconciling the people of Niger Delta, fostering unity and mobilizing citizens across the land towards building a nation of justice, peace, and progress. His tenure, although short, was impactful and progressive, a moment Nigerians remember for selfless service and deep commitment to the public good. Looking at the life and times of late President Yar'Adua is Dominion Brokers Group in-house analyst, John Izuchukwu. Welcome to the agenda, John.
Good morning, Chike. Thank you for having me this morning.
Wonderful. First of all, before we delve into the Yar'Adua saga, I observed lately that we have many Nigerians walking on the streets and also talking to themselves. In the past, it used to be, we used to see old people walk and talk to themselves. But nowadays, you find out that young people, middle-aged, and even older people also walk on the street. Now it's a collective street talking.
Yeah.
Is that not a problem of, I don't know, some would say mental health disorder?
Yes, you see, the fact remains that the economic reality is harsh on everybody. But we must also bring hope to Nigerians that this time will not last forever. And it makes no sense to lose hope, because a man without hope is on the path to suicide. So we must be hopeful, believing that one day we'll get out of this economic menace that we have found ourselves. So it is true that the reality is harsh on everybody, but that's not enough to take your own life. That is not enough to over-worry and get yourself into a state where you now have a mental challenge. All over the world there are tough times. It's just that our own is peculiar because it is man-made. It is created by the political class. And so we must encourage ourselves that this time will not last forever and we will outlast it. So that's the spirit. It's tough on everybody. Are
you saying that it's the economic condition of the country
of course
that has made people now walk and talk on the streets?
Chike, your house rent is there. You want to pay your children's school fees. You want to meet one family obligation or the other. All of that is, except you are not a responsible human being. If you're a responsible human being that want to take care of yourself and people around you, maybe your family, your immediate family, and you are not able to do so, nothing breaks you than that. You know, there are aspirations you have, you want to accomplish, and you need resources to accomplish them. And you're not able to do that, and you're on the same spot. It gets you worried. So, it's the truth. But one thing we must all know in life is that there must be ups and downs. And as human beings, we must always find a way to wiggle ourselves around the ups and downs, so that, because at the end of the day, it is not those who die in challenges that are celebrated. It's those who are able to overcome challenges.
Now, you are attributing this whole thing to the economic malady in the country. However, there are still some people who take illicit medication. That's what you call drugs. However, it is either directly or indirectly. There are some medications people take and they get so addicted to it, and probably depressants. So, also, the issue of drug abuse is also on the rise.
No.
Especially within the youthful age.
Very true. But you see, the analogy you gave, you know, encapsulates almost the entire sector of the society.
The demography.
So it means that it's not just a youth thing. It goes beyond the use of drugs. And, you know, so we understand there's an abuse of drug, particularly among the younger generation. They want to get high to, you know, evade, you know, the current challenge, but you are further damaging yourself. And it's important you know that you are constituting nuisance to the entire society. and you are a readily available tool for any person who want to foment trouble to use, because you have already designed yourself to be able to walk in that path. So it is necessary we know that it is wrong, it's not right, you're further damaging yourself, and you're constituting a liability to the state and to yourself and to your family.
If this economic war continues in a year or two, what will be the fate of those who walk and talk on the streets?
Well, we have to tell every Nigerian who listens to us and watch this program to know that this time will not last forever, and it makes no sense to kill yourself. It makes no sense. I have always believed that, yes, there will be tough times in life. In the holy books, the Bible tells us, for instance, so we must know how to abound and to abase. It's necessary to know when you have surplus, how to manage it. When you have scarcity, how to live in scarcity, so that you can still maintain your dignity. Because when this event passes, you will still be who you are.
How do you manage surplus in the present Nigerian economy?
Well,
and how do you manage scarcity?
There are people who are in surplus as, you see, this economy as it is.
Some
persons are making a lot of money.
I'm looking at the average Nigerian.
So the average Nigerian, live within your means is what I tell people.
Okay.
Don't, you see, this is not
is the means affordable at the moment?
Even if, you see, that's why we say, whatever you do that you earn money from, no matter how small, just find a way to live within it. Okay. There are things today I personally cannot afford.
Not because you don't want them.
No.
But because you can't afford them at the moment.
Within the resources that I make monthly, I have to cut down my expenses to what is the most important thing. What are the things that will drive my career? What are the things that will drive my family? What are the things that will drive my life in the next 5 years from now? Because things will not continue the same. So I will not spend my money on frivolities. If I go to, maybe if I visit the club before, which I don't, this is not the time to spend my money on visiting the club. I'm not saying it's, people who go there they have the money to, they should go there and spend the money.
It's their choice.
But I'm saying that in a scale of 10, your family comes first. Your career follows. Another family engagement are there. Your dependents are there. Because at the end of the day, if you look at it in the overall, you are not just alone. So people you are assisting, they should also be part of your plan. So that at the end of the day, you have successful people around you. You are not just the only successful person. So it's important we prioritize our spending owing to the current economic challenge. But if you have surplus this time, this is a time to make good investments. People are selling off properties, at a very ridiculous prices. So if you have the money, you get those investment down, you become bigger in the future.
Well, still on this, it is not he who wears rags alone that has mental illness. Sometimes people who wear good clothes seem to be walking and talking on the streets. Back to the Yar'Adua discussion. Well, looking at the former president, Musa Yar'Adua, yesterday made it exactly 15 years that he passed. The first sitting Nigerian president, democratically elected, who passed on the seat as president. When you look at Yar'Adua and his achievements as former president, would you say that he left a legacy even at a short time of his tenure as President, Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you, Chike. The late President Umaru Yar'Adua will always be remembered first by his acceptance of the process that brought him into power being flawed. That was the first time we saw a democratic president owning up to the fact that the process that brought him in is flawed. He described that election as not being free, as not being fair, as not being credible. So you are looking at a president who is able to take responsibility, and nothing endeared him to many Nigerians more than that. He was able to accept responsibility. He was able to, tell Nigerians, I agree that I'm your president, but I can also tell you that the process that brought me is not free and fair. And immediately he began a reform of that institution. And Chike, if you remember, elections conducted afterwards, before he died and Jonathan took over, you found that that institution, the INEC, seemed to be taking shape at the time. Now, it was his legacy that Jonathan continued. And you will see how judiciary became very strong because he began to put structures in place at the time. And one of the things that Yar'Adua did that, you know, if you check some of the cases that were won under Jonathan, I tell you, Jonathan continued what he started. You will see that most of those cases, particularly the case in Edo that brought in Adams Oshiomhole, the case in Osun, you know, you see some level of independence to the judiciary as an institution. You see how democracy was beginning to take shape. You see, you know, individuals who are not overbearing on our institutions, that want institutions to build systems that are sustainable, that can run it. That, you know, this part of the world will build our institutions around individuals. And so you see a human being who believes in the tenets and principles of democracy. And don't forget, Chike, Yar'Adua, you know, in his bid to reconcile Nigerians, in his bid to ensure inclusivity, in his bid to deal with grievances and animosity that have been, you know, bottled up over the years, he initiated the Presidential Amnesty Program. That program brought out several young people from MEND, from the Egbesu boys, to, you know, the Asari Dokubo and all his men, the Atike Tom, brought them out of the creek. And that, you know, because the activities of these boys were affecting the oil production at the time. And because Nigeria is largely dependent on oil, as its revenue generation means, Yar'Adua felt it was necessary to bring in these people and dialogue with them, talk with them. Because don't forget, the struggle for the rebuilding of the environment in Niger Delta is a long one.
Let's look at some of the achievements of former President Musa Yar'Adua. He was the first governor to publicly declare his assets, yes, even when he was governor of Kaduna State. Katsina, I beg your pardon. First governor, he was former governor of Katsina State, where his administration saw various developments in the state. Katsina became the fifth northern Nigerian state to adopt Sharia, or if you like, you call it Islamic law. Education was prioritized, and several schools were built in local areas. Yar'Adua also delivered on his promise of running an efficient public administration with corruption significantly as governor. And in August 2007, the administration unveiled a 7-point agenda to be the focal point of the administration's solution to developmental changes or challenges. And he stated some goals that he needed to achieve to elevate Nigeria to be among the 20 largest economies in the world by the year 2020, which happened to be the COVID year. Well, he came up with a 7-point agenda as president, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces in Nigeria. And then I know during the time of Abacha came up with a plan. He said Vision 2010. 2010 came, we didn't see any vision. Now, Yar'Adua came with Vision 2020 with a 7-point agenda. And the part of the 7-point agenda was infrastructure, power and energy, food security, wealth creation, transport, land reforms, security, education too, part of it. These were some of the 7-point agenda he brought out to execute until his health failed him, and then he eventually passed. However, did Goodluck Jonathan consolidate on some of these 7-point agenda?
Well, if you look at education, for instance, Jonathan had, I think he's still the only president maybe Obasanjo did, but I know Jonathan had a robust engagement with ASU, for instance, and part of ASU money was released. Do you understand? And certain agreement was reached under Jonathan, even though that's not been implemented up to now. But you see, in the overall, if you look at Yar'Adua's template of leadership, he was somebody who wanted to, demonstrate that it's possible not to be corrupt. It's possible to be able to live above corruption, because he did it in his state. He was transparent as a governor. So what we must learn from this as Nigerians, as leaders, is that one, it is to your credit that you're able to bring development close to your people. It's to your credit that you do not, embezzle what is state resources or national resources, because at the end of the day, development is a way to write your name in gold in the heart of the people. When people see what you did when you were in that office, it will continue to speak for you. So Yar'Adua did what he could do. And like I was saying, the amnesty program that he initiated, brought a lot of peace, a lot of calm, and that increased our oil production, which now, mean that more money was made and was also involved in, building roads, building schools, building other social infrastructures, because he was able to nip that on the board. But you see today, that's not the case. We are clamping down on everything. We are shutting down dialogue. We are shutting down diplomacy, and that's not the best in a democratic arrangement. There should be that opportunity for people to, engage constructively, engage all the stakeholders necessary, so that at the end of the day, whatever you are doing is people's idea, is the populace idea, and the populace are the one who are able to protect whatever project or development you have brought to the table.
His administration did not realize the 7-point agenda.
Certainly, because he did not live long.
Yeah, until his death. However, when you look at the whole thing, you see the power sector was not adequately funded. Infrastructural deficit was not closed down, and the troublesome process of reforming land use regulations hampered the reform of the land tenure laws in Nigeria. Unfortunately, he couldn't do what he planned out to do. Well, it's a lesson. Man proposes, God disposes, as it were. But 15 years on, just like yesterday, may the soul of the former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Musa Yar'Adua, find rest in the conclave of our illustrious ancestors. We'll go on this break. When we come back, what is wrong with the education sector in Nigeria? The UTME examinations took place just some weeks back, some days back, and then the results are out. According to what we have, there was mass failure. What is wrong? What is wrong with the youth? What is wrong with the admission process to universities? Should JAMB continue? Or should there be a reorientation and a reorganization of the UTME and the examination sector, precisely getting into higher institutions? We'll talk about this and more after this break. Stick around. Don't go away. All right, welcome back from that break. It's still the agenda on the Dominion Broadcast Group. The Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board on Monday released the result of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, raising concerns about mass failure as more than 1.5 million out of 1.9 million candidates whose results were released scored below 200. The UTME is usually graded over 400, with each candidate assessed in 4 subjects scored over 100 marks each. A breakdown of the results released by JAMB on Monday showed that 983,187 candidates, which is about 50.29%, scored between 160 and 199, while 488,197 candidates, making up about 24.97%, scored between 140 and 159. Additionally, 57,419 candidates, making up about 2.94%, scored between 120 and 139. In contrast, high performers were significantly fewer. Only 4,756 candidates, making up about 0.24%, scored 320 and above, while 7,658 candidates, making up about 0.39%, scored between 300 and 319. This brings the total number of candidates who scored 300 and above to 12,414, making up about 0.63% out of 1.9 million students that wrote the exams. A further 73,441 candidates, constituting about 3.76%, scored between 250 and 299. And 334,560 candidates, constituting about 17.11%, scored between 200 and 249. The range, typically regarded as competitive for many university admissions. The board also disclosed that of the 40,247 undergraduate candidates who took the examination, only 467, constituting about 1.16%, performed well enough to be classified under the exceptional ability attributed the decline in performance to lifestyle choices and poor attitudes towards education. John Izuchukwu, many have spoken about this issue of a mass failure out of 1.9 million students who wrote the examination this year. 1.4, according to the statistics from the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, failed woefully. What is wrong with the education system? Before we delve into the conversation proper, what is wrong with our education system?
Well, you see, is education our priority as a country? That's what we should be asking.
Okay.
We're asking ourselves, what's the budget? In the national budget, what was the budget allocated for education? Security took a larger chunk, and even the resources allocated to service debts is higher than what we are using to build our people, because human development is central to all kind of development in the society, and education is at the center of that development. And so the priorities of our policymakers clearly shows that we do not value knowledge production, and you cannot get what you don't give. So what we are seeing is the result of the input over the years. So when you go to secondary schools, for instance, from GSS 1 to SS3, if at the end of the day, students came out and then failed exam woefully, it is not just the exam. Several processes are there that got them to that point. So it means that the teaching process, the parent involvement or guardians involvement, and even the students themselves, their commitment to learning had dwindled over the years. And this is largely because, have you heard young people say, I have elder brothers who have been to school, they graduated, they have no job. And so we are celebrating people who we can't trace the schools they went to. More and more young people will be losing interest in going to school. And because, again, the idea of education to us is that you go to school, graduate, and get a job. Meanwhile, the idea of education, in fact, as advanced by one of the foremost leader of Nigeria, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, he said education is about to open up your mind, is to help you be able to think rationally, is to help you to be able to make informed decisions. It's not just getting a job. Education gives you a leverage, gives you an advantage. You're able to articulate your thought, you're able to take informed decisions about your life and even about your environment. So what we are seeing today is a accumulation of failed processes and failed systems. Today, we have people who have in schools, are people who just get teaching job to make ends meet, not because they love the profession, because how much are they paid? And so today, parents themselves can no longer take time to see how their children are doing in terms of education, because everybody is on the street looking for money. And so the children are allowed to raise themselves. I remember growing up, the brothers are older folks around us. They will inspire you to go to school because you want to learn new vocabularies from them. The conversation around them, is about how this person is on the first class, other person is on the 2-1, and what they hope to do after school. My friend, today is a different story, because young people today, as 15 or 16, are now becoming millionaires, making money from very, very uncharitable means. They're becoming rich and big. So,
but some of these means too are legit. They tell you they better get into tech.
No. Even getting into tech, you must be intelligent. You must be intelligent. You must be able to know. If you have not able to pass JAMB, you're not able to pass JAMB. So what I'm saying is that government has its own role, but parents, guidance, individuals, we have a lot of role to play, because you cannot tell me it's just sitting down to write exam is not the only process. Several processes have been involved to getting you to the point of writing JAMB. Now, if we go to JAMB and its formation itself, some of us have challenged with Professor Isaac Oloyede. He's a professor of Arabic and Islamic studies. And sometimes I personally think, how did he get to be in this shoe? Because this exam will determine the fate of several young Nigerians.
Is it Professor Isaac Oloyede's fault?
You see,
how is it his fault?
Now, let me tell you, Chike, how many percent of Nigerians, as at the last time I checked, was about 47% Nigerians can access internet. These exams are CBT exams. Now, most of the schools owned by government do not have computers. The students can't even access computers.
Are you saying we are not ripe for the CBT?
No.
As a people, as a country?
We can't give excuses because the world is moving at a fast pace.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that several things should have been put into place.
Things like what?
For instance, most government schools do not even have facilities for computer and internet.
Okay.
Schools who have it are most time private owned schools, big ones, not the local quack private secondary schools. So at the end of the day, the best and the poor ones will gather together to write the same exams, and they'll be graded the same way, given the same time. guys who have access to computers will do better than the guys who know the thing and they cannot have access.
Are you saying that the 1.4 million students, according to the statistics from JAMB, that failed woefully this year's UTME examinations are those that didn't have access to...
That's not the only variable. Several variables are involved.
Okay.
If you follow my narrative, several variables are involved to making students come out well in exams.
Okay.
Do you understand? Now, in fact, several literatures or studies have been conducted as to what and what can make student outcome in the terms of student outcome. One of it is what I'm saying, that we are now, using this CBT system. What it means is that there should be more advocacy to ensuring that government invests more in this technology so that schools in rural communities can also access it. In fact, if we have time to go into the analysis of distribution, you will find out that most of the time they are from the cities and they are the big schools. So apparently, the schools in rural communities are already, screened out, they're already designed and programmed to fail. That's one. Two, most schools today no longer, most young people today in secondary schools preparing for JAMB, they no longer take JAMB serious because there is also the factor of the people who want to help them solve the exams, provide ready-made answers to these exams.
Oh, you talk about special
centers. And that's a major damage to, our examination system. And the people in government are also aware. Some of these centers pay huge amount of money to systems that makes them assess this exam before, the time of this exam. So at the end of the day, you will see that there are saboteurs in these systems who release these examination questions to certain individuals, and then they now, resort to these young people. But unfortunately, JAMB also have a way. You see, because JAMB also has a way of tracking these things. If you are a secondary school teacher, you know the ability of an average secondary school student. Do you understand? And they also have professionals who look at it. People in the Southwest, for instance, these guys are most time they are tech savvy. They are they are people who quest for knowledge. There's a way a student in a rural community will score 350, and then you are asking yourself, what happened? How did these guys here, 10 of them, and then you want to probe. So at the end of the day, you find out that there's certain foul plays that has gone down. So JAMB has that too. So what I'm saying is that several factors are responsible for this. We should not just look at it from one perspective. Several things must have been involved to make us have this huge percentage failing JAMB this year.
We're forced. Like I said, mind engineering. Their ideology might just be imprint in their minds, and then they force them to write the exams. Okay, you must get into school, and then writing the exams out of their own, not within their will, out of being gagged and forced, could be part of the things that make people fail.
All of those who say school na scam, they went to school themselves. They came out of school to find out that at the end of the day, even to be able to express themselves, to even think through to say school na scam.
Because we're trying to look at the dynamics why we had this mass failure. We're looking at different angles.
It could be part of it. It could be part of it. But if you look at it, if a 16-year-old boy sat for this exam, had prepared for it, the parent paid for what lesson and all of that, it means that not everybody bought into that lies. Because I remember going to check up Naira Marley, one of those who were advancing it. He made a first class himself in business administration or business studies in UK. So the point remains that most of them who are advancing that claim, that thinking, that thought pattern, themselves were educated people. So, but I think that above all, education is no longer promoted as a key element to determining people's success in our society today. Just imagine that a first-class degree holder in a course like engineering or even law is given 1,000 naira award from the department or even the faculty at the end of the day. And someone who is going for, who won the BB Niger is getting 25 million naira. You see, our priorities are defined the direction where the young people should go. That's one. So what I'm saying that knowledge production is no longer prioritized. And young people don't want to go waste their time studying a course of 5 years or 4 years, as the case may be, and then that you come out of the day, you have nothing to do with it. You now go back to the same street to learn tailoring, to learn, mechanic, plumbing, which you should have done after secondary school. So the idea remains, if we want our young people to value, and let me tell you, Chike, the world is advancing because of education. Technology is advancing. People are thinking. No society develops just by technicians, by organizer, by mechanics. They have their place in our society, but you cannot be part of this drive to move us out of the third world to the second one and first world by, neglecting the educational system. You cannot. Okay. So we must do everything to encourage young people to know that no matter what you want to do, get educated first.
Okay, owing to a distribution shift, especially in youth priorities, we've also seen some who have attributed the colossal failure to young people who are interested in gangsterism, drugs, fraud, because that's what is even rampant today. And they are even in education, or even people, they are not even interested in education or even learning a skill. They prefer to be these gangsters on the street, delve into drugs. And that's why maybe we have a high influx of drug addicts today as youths.
Chike, let me tell you, I do not have these data readily here now, but let me tell you, the percentage of young people who want to be gangsters, they are not as much as those who want to make something out of their life in Nigeria. We're saying that,
but they could be an influence.
No. Well, that's possible. That's possible
because we're looking at society at large.
That's possible. But look at it. Look at it now. If close to 2 million people, young people, sat for this exam, and they now have this mass failure, my thinking is that the initial desire to even sit for the exam shows that somebody wants to go to school. He may decide to do something else at the end of at the end of schooling. At least effort has been made.
Okay.
Do you understand? Now, do we have those who want to get into school to do what they want, or to do, decide not to be serious? Those, they are there. They've always been there in all generations. But do we also provide environment and facilities to aid learning, to make sure that learning is glamorized, is made interesting? You need to go see some of the conditions under which people are learning. It's terrible. So in our days, you had to read. When I was in secondary school, you had to read with lamp. You had to work hard by yourself. But today, the facility to even do, how many schools have library today? Library. Those things are no longer important to us. They're no longer fanciful. When there's a time when you leave your class, that time is already part of the timetable. We all go to the library, particularly if you went to boarding schools. It's no longer so today. So we're saying that this is not just about the student. The institutions themselves, they are deliberately building, programming education to fail. Now look at it. Most of these students that have failed this exam, they will not go to the private schools that are built by the governors and senators. They will readily accept them. So at the end of the day, it is the children of the have-not that will be disadvantaged eventually.
Is there fire on the mountain?
There's a cause to be worried.
Okay.
There's a cause to be worried, because just imagine that someone who has attempted JAMB once, twice, 3 times is not able to gain admission to the university, that person may decide to do something else, which may not be productive to himself and to the society. We don't have the same tensile ability. Someone else may have the capacity to do it 4 or 5 times. Someone else may do once and he gets frustrated, and he goes to maybe learn a trade, and he found out that you don't even have the enabling environment to aid your success with what you have learned. That person may result into to harm, may result into involving in crime. So at the end of the day, it is holistic. So what we do and what we fail to do in education will affect all of us at the end of. Now, most of these people who are involved in terrorism today, there's a way, if you're educated, it gives you a thinking. Chike, I don't want to hurt you, not just because I am a person of faith, but because there's a level of understanding I have, because I'm educated, that life is beautiful when all of us are here doing our different things. You can't do what I can do. I can't do what you are doing. You can't do what other guys are doing. I mean, it's beautiful when we all see ourselves. But someone who is not educated at all, is being indoctrinated religiously, he can't even think with his mind, use his mind to look at what is being taught in the religious cycle. He goes ahead to do whatever they ask him to do.
When you said you didn't want to hurt me, I was even scared of
No. I mean, what I'm saying is, educated mind helps you to think globally, universally.
Of course.
It makes you look at the next person, not just as your friend, as someone who can contribute to your life, to your society, and not willing to take arm against the person.
With this mass failure in JAMB, lastly, are you subscribed to the scrapping of JAMB and schools conducting exams themselves?
No. That would be worse. JAMB is a good gateway.
Okay.
It's a good gateway to sieve people who go to the university.
Okay.
In the past, when there was no Pursue TME, that time, I remember that I went to one school those days. They were telling, if you don't have 500,000 naira, you can't gain admission. So these exams are good gateway. That's the only way the children of the have-not, if they work hard, can have access to the university. And education is a leveler. It's what brings the children of the rich and the poor together. When you go to a school like University of Ibadan, for instance, you will meet the child of a professor, the child of an administrator, the child of a chief judge. All of you are in the same class. If you don't have access to that university, you may never be able to come in contact with those people. So these examples, gateways, are very key. Nobody should be thinking of scrapping it.
All right, John Izuchukwu, thank you for being a part of the agenda this morning. Their listener, their viewer, thank you for joining us this morning. The agenda comes your way again tomorrow. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast. And on the app X is at Dominion Cast. My name is Chike Ubogu. Do have a great day. Stay safe. Bye for now.
had no doubt in my mind